The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It fell in long, heavy sheets, soaking the cracked pavements of a small, forgotten town. Inside a rusted car parked near an old diner, a mother sat quietly, her hands trembling as she watched her little girl sleep in the back seat. The child's small stomach rumbled faintly in the silence. The mother, Emily, pulled her torn jacket tighter around her and whispered softly, "It's okay, baby. We'll eat tomorrow." If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of compassion, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us that sometimes one small act can change a life forever. Emily had never imagined life would bring her here. Just 2 years ago, she had a job at a boutique, a small apartment, and a husband who used to make her laugh until midnight. But fate has its cruel ways. When her husband, Jake, died in a construction accident, the world collapsed around her. The bills piled up. Her savings vanished. And when the landlord gave her a week's notice, she packed what little she had, a few clothes, some toys, and her husband's old jacket, and drove until she ran out of gas. Now she was a widow with a 5-year-old daughter named Lily, sitting in a cold car on an empty stomach. That morning she woke up to Lily tugging at her sleeve, whispering, "Mommy, I'm hungry." The words pierced through her heart like a blade. Emily reached for the small bag beside her, but it was empty, no crackers, no bread, just a few coins. She smiled weakly, brushing her daughter's hair back. "We'll eat tomorrow, sweetheart. Mommy just needs to find some work today." Outside, the world felt merciless. The streets were wet, and every face that passed seemed too busy to notice her. She tried asking for work at a store, a gas station, even the diner across the street, but each time the answer was the same: "Sorry, we're not hearing." By afternoon, the rain had turned to drizzle, and Emily sat on a bench outside the diner, her clothes damp and her heart heavier than ever. She could see people inside laughing, eating stacks of pancakes, their plates steaming with warmth. For a moment, she wanted to go in, not to beg, but just to feel human again. But shame held her back like chains. Just then, the door opened. A man in his mid-30s stepped out, wearing a blue jacket. He carried a takeout box and paused when he saw her. She quickly turned her head away, embarrassed, pretending to check something in her bag. But the man noticed the small child peeking from the car window across the street, her face pale, her little hands pressed against the glass. He hesitated, then walked toward Emily. "Are you okay, ma'am?" he asked gently. Emily forced a smile. "Yes, thank you, we're fine." He could tell she was. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her lips dry, and her hands clutching a small purse like it was her last possession. Without another word, he walked back into the diner. She sighed, thinking he was just another passerby, but a few minutes later he returned, holding a tray of food: pancakes, scrambled eggs, and 2 glasses of orange juice. He set it on the table near her and said softly, "Please, come inside, it's warm." Emily froze. Pride and desperation fought inside her chest. She opened her mouth to refuse, but her daughter had already slipped out of the car and was staring wide-eyed at the food. The man smiled at Lily and said, "Go ahead, sweetheart, eat." Emily whispered, "No, we can't accept this. We'll eat tomorrow." The man looked at her kindly, his voice barely above a whisper, "Eat today." That single phrase broke something inside her. She sat down slowly, tears filling her eyes as Lily climbed onto the seat and began nibbling at the pancakes. The smell of butter and syrup filled the air, and for the first time in days, warmth touched Emily's heart. She tried to eat but found herself watching her daughter instead, the joy in her little face, the sparkle returning to her eyes. The man, whose name was Daniel, sat across from them quietly. He didn't ask questions. He didn't make her feel small. He simply smiled and said, "You remind me of someone I used to know." As they ate, Emily noticed the calluses on his hands and the wear on his clothes. He wasn't rich, but there was something rich about his heart. When Lily was done, Daniel ordered her another pancake. Emily protested, but he simply said, "Let her eat until she smiles again." Something in his voice made her stop arguing. She realized this man wasn't helping out of pity. He was helping because he understood. Over the next hour they talked. Emily told him bits of her story about Jake, about losing everything, about sleeping in the car. Daniel listened quietly, nodding, his eyes soft with understanding. Then, without warning, he said, "You know, I used to live in my car, too." Emily looked at him in disbelief. He continued, "A few years back I lost my job. My mom was sick and I sold everything to pay for her medicine. Some nights I didn't eat so she could. I know what it's like to hear your stomach growl and pretend it doesn't." Tears rolled down Emily's cheeks. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. When they finished eating, Daniel handed her a small note with an address. "I manage a small garage," he said. "It's not much, but we could use someone to help with paperwork, cleaning, organizing things. It's yours if you want it." Emily stared at him, speechless. I don't know what to say." He smiled. "Just say yes. Everyone deserves a start." That night, Emily parked her car near a shelter Daniel told her about. For the first time in months, she didn't cry herself to sleep. She watched Lily sleeping peacefully, crumbs still on her cheeks, and whispered, "We ate today, baby. We really did." The next morning, Emily showed up at Daniel's garage. He handed her a cup of coffee and introduced her to the team, a small group of workers who greeted her warmly. It wasn't a fancy job, but it was honest, steady work. Every day she showed up early, worked hard, and slowly began to rebuild her life. Months passed. Emily managed to rent a small apartment near the garage. She bought new clothes for Lily and even enrolled her in kindergarten. Every evening, Daniel would stop by, bringing a bag of groceries or a toy for Lily. The bond between them grew stronger with every passing day, not out of romance at first, but out of gratitude, respect, and shared pain. One day, as they sat in the same diner where they had first met, Emily looked at Daniel and said softly, "You saved us." He shook his head. "No, Emily, you just needed someone to remind you to eat today." If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that one small act of kindness can change a life, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Let's fill the world with more love, more compassion, and more stories of hope. Speech balloon before you go. Comment below. What does kindness mean to you? Sometimes a single word from your heart can inspire someone else to believe again. And so the woman who once whispered, "We'll eat tomorrow," found herself surrounded by warmth, love, and second chances. All because one man, once a stranger, decided to whisper, "Eat today."